Yo, what's up, family? Before we start the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and share to any and everyone you can, just so we can get out there a little bit more. With that being said, let's get right into the video. So after trading for Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, the Celtics are believed to have the best top 6 in the NBA. Although that is true, in this league, you need a little bit more than that to win championships, and the depth on the Celtics right now is something to be questioned. But based on the first 3 preseason games, I'll be giving an in-depth look at everybody that's fighting for spots on that bench, and I'll be telling you up to this point which guys have earned spots in the rotation or just some early minutes. First off, we have to start with Payton Pritchard. He's been with the Celtics for a couple of years. He's never had a real opportunity since his rookie year when Kemba got hurt. He played well in that stretch, but ever since then, he just hasn't had a concrete opportunity to show that he's a rotational player. And I could probably speak for all Celtics fans when I say that we know that Payton Pritchard can contribute to a team and be a rotational piece. And this offseason, Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla have also shared that same sentiment. After trading away Marcus Smart for Kristaps Porzingis, the Celtics had an opening in the backup point guard position. And even after the Jrue Holiday deal, this is still a team that looks to have 3 point guards for the entire season. And the faith that GM Brad Stevens has in Payton Pritchard was seen by rewarding him with a 4-year, $30 million deal. Some people question this deal because Payton hasn't really done anything for the Celtics yet, but $7.5 million per year for somebody I think can really be a good piece off the bench is really a no-brainer, and if anything, this is a tradable contract. But in the preseason, Payton Pritchard is averaging 21.3 points, 4 assists, 52% from the field, and 42% from threes. This guy just looks like a completely different player. He's quicker, his playmaking has improved, and his shot, which we already knew was good, just seems to be falling a little bit more right now. It is only preseason, but if his play right now is any indication of what's to come for the season, we will be in great shape. Next up is Dalano Banton, who I think has an interesting case to play this season. Not a fixture in the rotation, but he does do some things well. At about 6'7" and 3/4, he can legitimately play the 1, the 2, or the 3 position. He's a silky smooth driver who just seems to glide past people in pick and roll opportunities right to the rim. He's a good finisher with his left hand, and he's not afraid on the defensive side. The one knock on Banton, which will be common for a lot of guys in this video, is his shooting. He has not been a consistent shooter even in this preseason. He just isn't a guy that's going to consistently hit open threes, and you just have to hope that the other things he does well overtakes his 3-point shooting. But for right now, based on his play in the preseason, I would probably say Banton is our 4th point guard, just ahead of JD Davison. I don't expect him to get a lot of big minutes in the season. Some games, of course, there will be injuries, so he'll play more than others, but I don't expect him to be a fixture in a rotation as of right now. Next up is the rookie Jordan Walsh, who hasn't played a lot in this preseason, but when he has played, he has impressed me with some of the things he's been able to do. He's very clearly going to be an above average defender in this league, and even Joe Mazzulla knows it. Every time Walsh is in the game, Joe switches up his defensive coverages just to let Walsh hound the ball handler. Sometimes we've seen the Celtics this preseason go into a full court press and you see Walsh just hounding the ball handler. You'll also see them go zone sometimes and he'll just wreak havoc at the top of the key. Even though he's shown great energy and technique on the defensive side of the ball, he is still really raw on the offensive side. His shot is better than what people said coming out of college, which he showed in summer league, but I don't expect him to be a sniper from deep anytime soon, especially not in his rookie year. And he has a ways to go as far as putting the ball on the floor, even though he's shown some flashes in the passing department and slashing. I want Jordan Walsh to get time. I think he can really fit with the Jays, given that he can knock down a shot or two and be effective on that side of the ball. But I think Joe Mazzulla, especially in the earlier parts of the season, will prioritize some of the older wings on the bench unit. Next is Svi Mykhailiuk, who is typically a low-end bench guy, but he can really shoot/score the ball. He's not that good on the defensive side of the ball, but the Celtics certainly have the infrastructure to make that work. In the preseason, he's averaging 15 points on 53% from the field and putting on a shooting clinic from 3, hitting 60% of his attempts. He's also shown numerous flashes of being more than a shooter. He's averaging 4.5 rebounds a game, and he's shown some juice off the dribble. Although he's playing better than Hauser right now, I believe Hauser will get the nod early on in the season. Next up is JD Davison, who I think will still be in the G League this season. He's just too raw of a prospect right now. He literally cannot hit an open shot to save his life, but he is still very athletic. He is a good passer. He's shown that floater a couple times off those pick and rolls, so his patience has gotten better, but he's not particularly flashing on the defensive side of the ball, and he's just a 0 on the perimeter as far as getting his own looks. Next up is Oshae Brissett, who's averaging 6 points and 5 rebounds in his preseason, and again, he's another guy that just hasn't provided any 3-point shooting so far. He's 1 for 8 from 3 in the preseason, and I do think, like a couple of guys on this bench, his play in the regular season season will depend on if he can hit that shot consistently. Again, he has great energy, but sometimes it could be good and bad. He's kind of erratic on offense with the ball in his hands, but sometimes it could lead to him driving and dunking the basketball. So if he's on, but if not, he could be kind of all over the place in a bad way. Next up is Sam Hauser, who's averaging 7 points and 5 rebounds in the preseason. He started off the first 2 games very bad from 3, but in his most recent game, he had 15 points, 4 for 9 from 3, and all of his shots have been from 3, and that is the purpose of having Sam Hauser. Last year, sometimes when Sam Hauser would come into the game, he would go full stints without attempting a 3 or even being able to get a look at a 3. And that is the entire purpose for him being on the court. If he's not hitting 3s, at the least shooting them to space the floor out, he serves no purpose on that end of the floor. Not saying that's all he can do, but that is his primary skill set at the moment. And just making sure that a pin down, a ghost screen, or a Spain PNR is ran for Hauser to get a 3 every time he's in the game will serve well for the Celtics. Now, a lot of people have been seeing Svi Mykhailiuk play in the preseason and think there's some pressure on Sam. I think there is a little pressure on him because Svi just can't miss right now. But again, I do think to start the season off, Sam will be ahead of Svi. It just depends on each guy's play. Next is Lamar Stevens, who is another one of those energy/hustle wings who provide defensive versatility. Stevens is averaging 6 points and 5 rebounds in 3 games, and again isn't showing great touch from the outside, shooting 1 for 7 from deep so far. This may be a surprise, but I think Stevens is the second wing off the bench after Hauser. I trust him more than most of the bench guys, being that he was a consistent starter last year with Cleveland. And I just know what he brings every night, and I think there's value in steady play off the bench. Wenyen Gabriel is someone who I don't think is going to see a lot of time this year, even if an injury happens. This is a player I respect the hell out of because he plays the same way everywhere he goes, and he just works his ass off, but I just can't see a role for him. Kornet is averaging 3.5 points, 2 assists, and 2 rebounds so far in the preseason. He hasn't been particularly impressive so far and hasn't rebounded as well as I think he should be, but he has shown some great passing flashes, and the offense seems to flow when they run it through him. I think there is some competition here similar to Hauser and Svi's situation, but even more so. I think Neemias Queta, who I'll talk about next, is giving Luke a run for his money for the 3rd big spot and will continue to do so. Neemias Queta is averaging 8.5 points and 3.5 rebounds in just 11 minutes in his 2 preseason games. He isn't the most agile big like we are used to seeing with Al and Rob and Porzingis right now, but he is a true 2-way threat at the rim. He and Luke are both lob threats, but I believe Queta is more athletic. Queta has the upper hand as far as altering and impacting shots at the rim, of course excluding the Kornet contest. In his last game versus Philly, he really showed out with 10 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists in just 8 minutes. He showed that 2-way ability, but I was more impressed with his passing. The dribble handoffs into pick and rolls were just ran so smoothly by him, and he was hitting guys in the pocket on cuts. If he keeps showing this out on the court, I think we might be looking at our 3rd big. And lastly, as of right now, these are the top 5 bench guys I think Mazzulla will call on at the start of the season. And number 1, of course, Payton Pritchard, then Sam Hauser, Lamar Stevens, Luke Kornet, and Jordan Walsh. Slightly trailing behind that group is Svi and Queta. Then there's Dalano Banton and Oshae Brissett, Wenyen Gabriel, who I don't think will play much of anything, and Davison, who I think will be back in the G League. Again, this is just to start the year, and as I've already said, I think Svi and Queta can come in for Hauser and Luke on any night, so that's why they're in that close tier. Banton and Oshae can be your 11th and 12th guys, while JD again is in the G League. Of course, nothing is set in stone, and I think a few of these guys can show up on a lot of different nights, so it's really up to Joe Mazzulla to push the right buttons at the right time. But if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, share it to any and everybody. Please leave a comment, any thoughts you have on the video, and just your comments on what you think the Celtics bench rotation can be. Even if you disagree, please put a comment down. I love to talk basketball. And this is Nick. I'll see you guys in another video. Peace.